So without further ado, a gentleman that really doesn't need an introduction. He's a staple in our community, and he is here to deliver his residential market conditions. Mr. Gary Crabtree, thank you so much for joining us today, and we all are waiting with bated breath for what you have to say today. Thank you very much, and go right ahead.
Well, thank you, Bobby. So what we'll start this morning, and again, the presentation is going to change, obviously, because of the events of 2 days ago. The idea of trying to use history to forecast the future is not going to work. So I've added one slide at the very end, which just gives some general idea of what we could maybe look forward to come the future, depending upon the outcome of the election, because there will be some changes, obviously, depending upon who prevails. But anyway, so we'll get started with my slide presentation. Basically, we're going to go over first, for anyone that knows anything about real estate, we've got to look at the basis of the market, and the basis of the market is the local economy. The local economy, so we'll start our first section with the local economy, move into what the current market trends are, so you can see where we are today, where we've been in the past. Going forward into the future is somewhat of a great unknown at this point in time. So we'll just have to kind of fly by the seat of our pants when it comes to that. First of all, let's take a look at our income trends and what the median family income trends are doing. And you can see, and again, I'll use my pointer, hopefully it'll work. But the blue line represents, and this is from 2006 until 2019, the blue line represents the US average median family income. So you can see it started in 2016. The median family income was about $62,900. It's gone up to $68,700 over the last 3 years. The gold line represents California. And again, California has kind of responded. They had a down year from 2017 to 2018, but then we're back up again. So the median family income in California is $78,000. Bakersfield is on the red line down below. We're always at the bottom. But you can see that our median family income has been reasonably stable. And then starting in about 2016, we remained stable for 1 year, and then we began also to increase. Last year's increase was from 51,500 per year up to about 56,000. So that's almost an increase of 10% in median family income for the Bakersfield MSA over the last year. That is driving the market because we've got a higher median family income, therefore there's more people that can afford housing. Looking at the population trends from 2012 to 2019, there's some very interesting numbers here. Looking at population, excuse me, last year, we gained about 10,000 in population, or about 1.4%. That's made up of natural increase, which is the births, then the deaths, subtracting the deaths, giving us the natural increase. Then we come to the net migration, both immigration and domestic migration. To maybe clarify and define those issues for you, the net immigration is immigration of people that is from outside the country. Net domestic migration are migration from anywhere from within the state or within the United States. Excuse me. Anyway, one of the big trends that we have seen over the last 7 or 8 years is, if you will notice, look at the births that we've had in the county, and the births were in 2012 14,000, and they're dropping. Deaths, on the other hand, are increasing. So our natural increase is dropping anywhere from almost 9,000 in 2012 to 6,400 in 2019. Our net migration was 3,908. So that brought us with a positive net immigration of about 2,000, and domestic immigration, those are people moving either within the state or from outside of the state, 1826. So you can see over the past 3 years, we've enjoyed a positive migration, net domestic migration, whereas before we had more people leaving than we had coming in. The other thing that to me is a little bit interesting, that our birth to death ratio is 2, whereas California is 1.67. So we still have a good number of births compared to the rest of the state. Excuse me, I got a frog this morning. Looking at our employment trends, and again, the employment trends obviously are pretty miserable, but we're doing pretty well considering the COVID. The blue line represents our Bakersfield labor force. These are the people that are available for work and are looking for work. And this is for the last 2 years. So back in 2018, we were at about 202,000. Today, we're at a little over 195,000. Then the number employed is the green line. And you can see that 2 years ago, or even let's just take a look at 1 year ago, we had about 195,000 employed with 205,000 looking, or actually labor force. So that's only 10,000 difference. Then came COVID. And this is the result of COVID, where we are at a low in May of about 160,000. We have turned the corner and we're moved up to about 170,000. However, that still leaves us with about 25,000 people that we have looking for work and or are unemployed. The red line indicates simply the employment rate or the unemployment rate. And obviously it shot up in February of 20 when COVID hit. We reached a high of 17.5%. And now we have turned the corner and we're moving back down to where we are at about 12% unemployment for the county, or for the Bakersfield rate. Labor participation rate, just to show you the year over year issue. Labor participation rate, Bakersfield dropped 9,600. In employment, we dropped 24,500. Our latest unemployment rate for Bakersfield is 12.8%. For the rest of the county, their labor participation rate dropped by 18,500 with 24,600 unemployed. So roughly, COVID has essentially cost us about 50,000 jobs. They're at 1.8. So we're sitting, 11.8. So anyway, we're sitting around 12% unemployment. California is at 10.8. So we're just a little bit worse than California in general. The United States' latest numbers is 7.7%. Looking at the employment trends, just to give you an idea of a micro look of what's going on and everything, and this is from September to September. As you can see, the big hit came in the farming sector with a loss of 25,500 jobs over the last year. Excuse me. Petroleum is continuing to lose jobs, 200 last month, 2,000 over year. Our construction market, our construction is holding quite well considering we've only lost 100 and only 300 over the last year. So that's pretty good. Retail trade is down about 8%. Professional services are down about 7%. Last month, they were one of the only sectors to show a positive gain in employment. Health and education down about 8 or 9%. Leisure and hospitality, that's the restaurants, bars, and motels. So we can see what type of a hit was taken there, 7,400 jobs, almost 20%, 27% down year over year. Government actually recorded a 2,200 job increase last month, but they're down 1,300 for the year. So the end result was that year over year, the Bakersfield MSA has lost about 49,800 jobs. That's about a 14.2% decrease. Looking at our gross domestic product, which is basically the value of all the goods and services produced in the county. My data source for this is the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. They're the ones that's responsible for putting this out. And of course, they measure not only the national GDP, but state and local. Unfortunately, they're behind this year, I guess because of COVID or whatever, because I have not been able to get the 2019 GDP numbers for the Bakersfield MSA, but over, as you can see, over the last 10 years, and this is in millions. And so you can see that last year was almost a record-setting year as far as GDP is concerned. I shouldn't say last year, 2018. So we had in 2018, our gross domestic product was $49.5 billion. And you can see what has happened over the particular years, but obviously, starting in 2015, a lot of that has to do with oil. Looking at the Bakersfield retail sales tax revenues, that gives us an idea of spending of the consumer and what is happening there. Again, this is from, excuse me. Forgot to mute my phone. Anyway, looking at Bakersfield retail tax revenues from 2011 to 2019, again, this is in thousands. And so the tax revenues have continually gone up from 2017, 18, and 19, the last 3 years. We've seen more consumer spending than we've ever seen. That amounts to tax revenues of about $66 million to the city. That tells us that the consumers have been spending and the economy is healthy. The Kern County Oil and Gas Assessment, I only include this slide because this shows you the impact that the oil and gas community has upon our economy. This happens to be the assessment, total assessment of the oil reserves that the county relies on for taxes. And so you can see that we reached a high of $31.5 billion in assessed value for oil and gas in 2014. And then the bottom dropped out. And so we are now just kind of puttering along right now. We're at about $14.9 billion in assessed revenues. What that really means is that before, up in this area, when the price of gas or the oil was so high, that income to the county in terms of tax revenues was 35%. So 35% of all of our revenues and taxation coming into the county was generated by oil and gas. Today, that's 15%. So you can see what has happened and caused the county to struggle because they've lost so much tax revenues. So looking at the tax revenues, excuse me, looking at the economy then for 2019, our median household incomes have increased by 10.1%. So we have increased buying power. Our Bakersfield MSA population natural change, as you see, is declining while immigration is increasing. So again, natural change meaning less births, more deaths. And then of course, we're getting more immigration, both international and national and domestic. The labor participation and employment rate are all down, obviously, because of COVID. 12.8% is our unemployment rate today versus about 5% same time last year. The 2018-19 sales tax revenues were up about 5%. However, I've got the first half tax revenues of 2020. This is sales tax revenues. And we are down about 12.4%. So that, again, is a result of COVID. Oil and gas assessments declined 53% since its high in 2014, as we just noted. And then our mortgage interest rates are still down at record lows. It's dropped over 72 basis points to the latest Freddie Mac published rate of 2.88%. But then again, everyone is forecasting that the interest rates will be expected to rise. The question really is how fast they're going to rise and how high they're going to go. A lot of that's going to be dependent upon the administration that is in place going forward. Basically, the Fed has run out of bullets, so they don't have much more in monetary policy that they can do. So that is going to be possibly a negative feature going forward with respect to the housing market and real estate. Again, 2017 to 2018 GDP was up 3.5%. And that is very consistent with the rest of the country. So, you know, don't count the last quarter of GDP, which was up 33%, but the annual GDP is up, which was a good sign that we had a good, strong, healthy economy. So let's take a look at market trends. We'll start with quarterly comparisons. So this is over the last quarter, third quarter versus the second quarter, and then of course, same quarter last year. The current listings are starting to rise over the last quarter, about 50%, but still are down over 14% from the same period last year. Our closed existing sales rose. We had a very healthy marketing season during the third quarter, which is June through September 30th. So we had a very active market compared to the second quarter, which then again is actually, excuse me, April through June. However, when you look at the numbers compared to last year, our closed sales are only up about 1.5%. So again, it's been reasonably steady. Unsold inventory has gone up to 1.3 months on a quarterly basis, but still that is a good number. On the last quarter, we were at 285,000. representing a 3.7 increase over the last quarter. So that's better than 1% per month increase in sales or median price. Year over year, we're up about 9.6%. List to sales ratio, which really measures the strength of the market, and the market has still been very, very strong. And we're in a situation where we're still around the 98 to 99% range. Unit prices per square foot has continued to rise. We're at 166.73 over the last quarter. That's 4.3%. REOs are not a problem. We have very little, if any, foreclosures. As a matter of fact, the county just reported that the total foreclosures last month, which would be in October, total foreclosures for the entire county was only 26. So that's really some good news. That may go up in the future, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And then, of course, the median days on market, that's no surprise. We have such a strong market that we're really, we're seeing properties turn, and this is no news to you because you live it every day, but you see that our median days on market's down to 11. So let's take a look at what the monthly comparison is. And the current listings are down still a little bit over the previous month, but they're down almost 33% from year over year. Our closed existing sales are still showing strength at 606 for last month, and that's probably a little on the conservative side because I take my information from the MLS, and everyone is supposed to report their sales within 48 hours. Unfortunately, they don't. So usually we don't get a more accurate figure until about the 15th to the 20th of the month. But again, we're down a little bit from September to October, which is to be expected since we're moving into a winter marketing season. I don't have the information on the new construction. That usually doesn't come out and is available to me until sometime after the 10th to the 15th of the month. So I've had to leave that out. Total inventory, still 1 month, which is very, very strong. Our active listing price is steady at about $320,000, which is up 17% over the same period last year. Existing pending price, as you can see, is dropping about 10,000 from last month. Again, that is probably attributable to the winter marketing season because we are in transition to the winter marketing season. Existing median sale price has still gone up over 5,000 last month. So we were up 1.7% month over month and up almost 12% year over year. Our new construction median price is showing some decline. And the reason for that simply is that there are more and more entry-level homes being produced by the builders. They know that they don't have the median family income that's going to be the median family income is not going to be high enough for them to raise their prices. They're struggling, but they're keeping with a lot of entry-level homes that are being built and sold. Our existing unit price is still pretty stable from month over month, but still up 11% year over year. New listings up a bit. As there will be more and more people, I think that's going to be in a position to be putting their homes on the market. Median days on market, again, on a monthly basis is down to 8 days. So I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. Anyone that has a decent priced home in the market right today, you're going to have multiple offers on that, and it's going to it's not going to be on the market very long. Our affordability index is still at 50%, meaning that 50% of the of the median or the families in the median family income can afford a house in Bakersfield. That is significantly higher than the rest of the state. The rest of the state, the affordability index for the rest of the state is about 38%. And it drops and depends on where you're at. It's into the 20s in Orange County, and in San Francisco, it's 11%. Annualized appreciation rate continues to increase, so it shows that we have a strong trend going here from, we're up to 8.38%. That's about 0.7% per month of appreciation going forward. Looking at the 4-year comparison, again, of prices, you can see how our market has continued to grow in strength. The red line represents 2017. We started the year at 215,000, ended the year at 238,000. 2018, we started at 228,000, ended at 243. 2019, we started at 243,750, ended up at 264. And then this year we've started at 252 and we're up to 295. So you can see how long and how straight this market is as far as increases in prices. At $295,000, that puts us only $5,000 below our peak of the bubble in 2006. 2005, 2006, which is just about $300,000. From the time that the bubble hit in 2005-06 at 300,000 to its decline where it hit bottom in April of 2009, the median price dropped from 300,000 to 115,000. So it's been a long way back. Most all of the communities in the country have fully recovered from the bubble. We still have not, but we're getting there. And by the way, Kern County is mirroring the rest of the Central Valley of California in that respect. Looking at market trends for appreciation, this is the annualized appreciation from September 18. We did have some decline, but in October 19, we were at a 4.2%. Today, we're at 8.35%. So you can again see the strong growing market in price point over the last year. The next chart just demonstrates to you the ebb and flow of sales volume. And as you can see, these are 2017 to 2020. We always start the year at monthly sales volume rates of somewhere around 400 units in January, February. Then we begin to climb until we reach our peak in June, which is in the 600 to 650 range. That goes through September. And then after that, as we move into the winter marketing season, we find that our sales volume drops and we're back into about the 450 range. This year, through October, we're at 600, 606. So we're doing a lot better than, say, the previous years. But again, note that we are going down. So that's just basically a function of the normal transition to winter market. Looking at new construction over the last 2 years, the blue indicates price. This is median price. So September of 18, our median price for new construction was about $325. Last year, it dropped to about 315, and this year we're at 311. So you can see the tracking, which is the blue trend line of where we are as far as pricing for new constructions. The red line represents sales volume. And as you can see, same thing with the peaks and the valleys. Again, agents of production right now are going down a little bit. And again, a lot of that is the fact that builders are struggling right now, especially with impact fees. When you look at our county or city's impact fees, the typical 1,800 square foot house, their impact fees before they can even put a shovel in the ground is close to $38,000. And that's passed on to the consumer. So that's pretty tough for them. The other issues that they have had with costs are the fact that their cost of materials have gone up. Some of that is due to the tariffs that have been imposed upon China. So it's causing them some consternation to be able to make a reasonable profit because their costs keep rising, impact fees kept rising, and they're finding that their only real market lies in the entry-level market in around the $225,000 to $275,000 range. A good example is Tyner Ranch, which is Richard Phillips, and they are building in the 235 to 265 range. He has completely sold out of his tract. He's acquired some new lots, but right now, as it stands, as he had indicated to me, he still has a waiting list of 1 year. It's people that it's going to take him a year to get the houses built for him. So there is still very strong demand in the entry-level market. So summing up in 2020, last year's economy, of course, caused prices to rise. COVID has brought new buyers into the market. And of course, you don't have to, that's something that you know, then we in the real estate profession know, is obviously we are seeing buyers come from out of the area, Los Angeles, the coast, up in the northern part of the Central Valley, and even from San Francisco because of affordability. COVID hit, so they no longer are tied to a desk someplace. They can telecommute, and they can't afford the prices. So they're looking for other areas in which to live. Bakersfield, being the second most affordable market in California, is bound to attract them. When they look around, and if you look at the median prices throughout the state, Los Angeles at $670,000, Orange County at $890,000. That's median price. We're at $295,000. The coast is around $760,000. San Francisco is just about $1 million. So people are looking for affordable housing. A lot of people are pretty much just sick and tired and fed up with congestion, with the long commutes to work, with COVID, with crime. And so they're seeking different areas of housing. Bakersfield happens to be one of them. I did an appraisal for a gentleman for a new purchase. I had a chance to interview him. I thought it was an interesting conversation. He and his wife were from Pasadena. They had bought a house in Pasadena about 40 years ago. He related to me that it was about 1,400 square feet on a 4,000 square foot lot. They just basically got tired of all of the traffic congestion and everything else. So they were looking for someplace else. They came to Bakersfield. They purchased a 2,400 square foot house in Del Webb Solera out by Rio Bravo for $315,000. They then went back to, or they at least entered into contract. They went back to Pasadena. They sold their house for $800,000. So he's now a new resident of Bakersfield. They say they don't mind the heat too much. That may be an understatement. However, they also noted that there's some nice prevailing breezes in the Northeast in the afternoon. They like that. And he told me then, he says, we finally figured something out. In Bakersfield, we're 2 hours from everything. If we want to go to Los Angeles, 2 hours. The beach, 2 hours. Mountains, 2 hours. So that's something that we have known all along. But finally, it's being recognized by the rest of the people that are moving in here. The annualized median price appreciation has increased from 4.2 to 8.3, as I had indicated. Supply is again stable, demand is increased. So we're only at one month unsold inventory. So that's why we can't find enough houses, because again, the inventory, when you look at 500, say roughly 500 listings, that only represents 0.8% of the total single family houses in Bakersfield. So less than 1% of the houses are on the market. Year-to-date sales volume, as I said, is down about 5% over below 2019. Interest rates, again, we've talked about the decline, 2.89%. However, that is going to go up. Again, as I said, the Fed has spent their bullets. Due to the low income, there is a price barrier. 86% of our market share is below $400,000, and 61% of all homes sold last year sold between $200,000 and $350,000. So what we're seeing is, again, the price barrier was about $300,000. It's moving up a bit, but it's still there. And again, affordability. That's the biggest thing that we have to sell in California or in Bakersfield. We are 59% below the state median price in Bakersfield. So my last slide is a change of the administration. If the administration does change, it's been well stated that he is going to raise taxes. So the tax increases will cause consumer prices to rise, because the producers will again have to pass those tax increases on to the consumer. So we can look for inflation there. That also will reduce the net disposable income, and therefore the people will not be making as much money in order to afford housing. So that's going to bring impacts upon the home demand and prices. The move to renewable energy will have a negative effect on our economy, obviously, because a good portion of our economy relies upon oil and gas. And how fast that takes place, or if it takes place at all, is going to be a big question. But I don't think that they realize that it's just not oil and gas to propel cars and airplanes and everything else. A lot of the petroleum products are used to make such things as plastic. If they completely do away with oil and gas, you won't have toothbrushes. You won't have anything plastic, so you can't drink a plastic out of a bottle. So there's so many different products that are produced because of the oil and petroleum economy that will no longer be available to us. Increased regulations are going to cause increase in cost. They always do, especially for builders. And finally, FHA, which has been a primary source of financing. Their policies will be changed. There will be more regulation. So it's going to increase the cost of doing business. And then again, it will also slow down the business because there will be more regulations. Finally, birth rates will decline and deaths will increase. Why do I say that? Well, we do have an administration that professes that we're going to have a anti-life agenda. And then if we look at single-payer health care, again, the amount of money to fund such a thing is phenomenal, and there's going to have to be choices made. And I think that it's going to make the elderly in our country will not be able to receive the health care, that they have been able or used to in the past. And so we'll see more of that. The whole point of it simply is it controls the producing members of our society, and without new births, and then with increasing deaths, it reduces the pool of Social Security. Those are the producers; they're the ones to supply the income, and that income, of course, is going to go to the government in the form of higher taxes. So that's my presentation this morning. I'll be open for questions. I want to tell you that the Crabtree report, I've had to discontinue it only because I shut my offices down September of 2018, and I'm now working out of my home. So I don't have the staff to do the research anymore. And I've had a diminishing returns as far as subscribers. My subscriber base continued to decline, albeit maybe the fact that we were in such a good economy and nobody really cared too much about the data. Or the other thing was some of my subscribers were taking my report and passing it along to other people. So consequently, my report was getting good circulation, but my income level was going down, making it infeasible. I still am producing a small executive summary of the monthly data and information. It's 2 pages and it's free to anyone. All they have to do is to contact me. You have the email address on the screen. Contact me. I'll put you on the list, and we'll get to it and see if we can at least help support you and the community with some of my insight that I've garnered over the last 59 years in the appraisal business and the appraisal profession in Bakersfield. So that concludes my presentation. I'm open for questions and answers.
Great. Thank you very much, Gary. Really appreciate it. And then, well, I'm sure as we continue the presentation here in the Q&A, we'll get an opportunity to thank you formally. We'll jump right in here. We have Mike George. Can I get a copy of the meeting and presentation after the meeting? Mike, we will get back to you on that. We got to ask Gary for permission.
So he has my, I've already talked to Jamie. He has my permission. Obviously this webinar is being recorded, so they have that recording. And then Jamie has permission to produce my slides and make them available to, through the board.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. Baines Bank has a question. Does the tax revenue reflect an adjustment for Measure M, 13% 1 cent increase in retail taxes?
The tax revenues do not in that particular case, because it's based on the state tax revenue, the state-based tax revenue, which is 7%.
Okay. One more question. You stated that we are in the second most affordable community in the state. What is the most affordable community and how much less expensive are they? It's a great question.
To Larry.
Larry.
And not much. I mean, Tulare Visalia is just a little bit below us. And again, I tend to discount some of the small communities up in the northern part of the state because their population is so small that they don't have a lot of people there. So consequently, their prices are a little bit lower. But I'm talking about populations of someplace in the vicinity of 300,000 to 500,000 people. Currently, as you saw, Bakersfield MSA, which is Kern County, is at 920,000, I think, or 912,000.
Okay, I hope answers that question. We have Judy Miller had a question. How do you think the passage of Prop 19 will affect our market?
Refresh me. I'm not sure if I can keep up with Prop 19. I looked at all those propositions and looked at them yesterday and again this morning, and I think everything in the state failed except for one. But I'm not familiar with 19. Sorry, Judy.
Okay. Why do you see happen? Excuse me, Robin Albin has a question. Why do you see happening in our local SRR market in 2021? I guess it's what?
I would love to be able to forecast something, but with the change, if there's a change in the administration, I look at our market in 2021, early 2022, possibly trending into a recession and even possibly a depression. Some of the factors involved there is the fact that what we have seen as appraisers is that although there's a strong market in the purchase market, there is a very, very strong market in refinances. We're doing about 3 refinance appraisals for every 1 purchase appraisal. Everybody is in the market to refinance right now to lower the rate to get it to loan. But then there are also people that have lost their jobs. They don't have any other income, so they are now into cash out refis. So they're cashing in their equity. So they have that money to live on. If they don't get their job back after COVID, we have foreclosures coming. And that could happen in probably late 2021, early 2022. But if I was to say that we would have a normal market with the current administration in there, I have no reason to believe that we probably will still continue to see growth and increase. Just using my forecasting models, we're at 295. Probably by the end of next year, we would be at around 320 to 325,000 median price. And again, that would be assuming that everything else kind of remains status quo.
Kim chimed in. Thanks, Kim, for refreshing our memory. The Prop 19 is for tax portability.
Oh, you're talking about the tax affordability of changing the base when you sell your house?
Right.
Seniors?
Yeah, seniors.
Well, obviously that's a negative. If it failed, then there'll be more and more seniors thinking twice about moving because they can't change it. They can't take their tax base with them.
Okay, I hope that answered the question. Let's moving on. Gary Frausto, depending on the outcome of the election, what would be the estimated turnaround to see the impact in the trends? It's a good question.
Yeah, very good question, because we don't know how fast this administration is capable of moving. If they're really serious about they're increasing taxes immediately, eliminating all of the, or adding the regulations back that the last administration had done away with. It streamlined our government, and so our government gets larger. How fast that moves is going to be dependent on what's going to happen with our market. But I would say at the earliest, we will probably see third quarter 2021 or early first quarter 2022 before we'll see some impact or some definite impact to the real estate market.
let me just piggyback on that. So based on what you just said, would that be locally or nationally? When you
I
see
think it's nationally because all the policies are national.
right, what would you gauge the impact? You know, once those, if the administration changes locally, third quarter, fourth quarter, 2021, or would that run us into 22?
Well, I think it's going to be dependent again on how fast action is taken and how fast these policies are implemented. That's why I can't really say, but I'm looking at maybe third quarter 2021 to the first quarter 2022.
Okay. Yeah, Judy just refreshed passage of 19. Jose Arellano has, do you expect the short sale and foreclosure rate to increase in the next year?
Not in the next year, but I do look for it to happen in late 2021 and early 2022.
Okay. Judy Miller, we touched base on the county tax and this for seniors. Greg Ketchum, when COVID is no longer causing an economic slowdown and employment rises to normal levels, can you forecast an increase in the supply and sales?
Not really, because I think it's all going to be dependent upon other markets elsewhere, because that's what's driving our market right now, obviously, is affordability. So as long as we continue to be in that low affordability area, it should not really impact us that much other than when COVID is over. The question is, will the employers bring them back to work into a fixed place where they have to commute and go to a desk, or is telecommuting going to be something that will have substantially changed our economy and the way that we do business?
Okay. Waylon, I think just chimed in. Prop 19 is related to the tax base portability for seniors. I believe you touched on that. Zach Galliani says, do you believe that the current rate of appreciation in our market will be sustainable going into 21, given both the political and economic climate?
At this point, I would say no.
Okay. Any other questions, folks? I mean, it's a lot of great questions. I mean, keep them coming. We have a few minutes to keep rolling. Gary, any final thoughts or any? I know you don't want to forecast too much, and giving the political climate and where we are in the elections right now. Can we expect? And I know this is kind of a you don't have a crystal ball, but can we expect the status quo for 21 at least first, second quarter?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Bobby?
Can we expect, and in our profession here in real estate in Bakersfield, can we expect pretty much the status quo for early first quarter, second quarter 21, or do you see there's going to be some major changes that are going to impact our local local profession, our real estate market specifically?
Well, I think that our real estate market, as long as it remains affordable, as long as we have low interest rates, as long as we still have agents of production, meaning that we have builders building, our market should go along quite nicely. If the administration was status quo, I would think that our market would continue to grow, only because we've got the one main thing that no one else has, and that's affordability. And as long as people are making more income, they're going to be able to afford more housing and higher housing. So that's going to drive our market.
I did realize, I did see this year, early in the year, there's a lot of the new construction builders have increased their prices substantially.
Yeah.
10, 15, 20,000. What do you attribute to that?
The reason for that is twofold. Number one, impact fees have increased. There was a proposal, I'm not sure if it's gone completely through, but it was an across the board school tax or actually school impact fee, that was going to increase the school impact fees about $4.50 a square foot across the board. That would result in almost a $7,500 increase in impact fees. Therefore, building permit fees would go up higher. But the other thing that is causing the increase in prices, not only that, is the fact that the cost of materials, cost of production, cost of materials especially, has gone up to a great extent because of the increased tariffs against China. And so we are paying more for product. And, you know, we're looking at everything that goes into a house. A lot of it, as you know, is plastic, and that's produced in China. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the other reasons, because the cost of construction to the builder is going up. They're having to raise their prices in order to maintain the same profit margins.
Thank you for that, Gary. Appreciate it. Gary Frausto, can you see a point of when the overbidding and above appraisal guarantee will slow down? It's another great question.
Yeah, that is a very good question. And you know, again, it's going to be dependent upon the change in the administration, because and what happens with COVID. How long are we going to be in the COVID situation? If they say that the vaccine is still a couple of 3 months away, how it's going to take them the better part of 8-9 months to get everyone vaccinated. And so we're still going to have some of the restrictions that we still have, and with respect to mobility. And then of course that once that goes away and they start bringing people back to work at fixed places, that should then lessen our demand going forward.
Okay. Timothy McCrary, will the mass exodus of people leaving California have an impact on our market, or will our market be okay due to its affordability in the state?
If you're talking locally in our market is not looking at a mass exodus. It's the areas where the prices are extremely high. And of course, our tax rates are extremely prohibitive. We're probably the highest tax state, other than maybe New York, in the country. So people are moving, we know that. Just anecdotally, and in speaking with you, the realtor, they're telling me that the 4 primary destinations are Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, and Idaho. And so if that's the case, those people, because of the taxation, the high taxation, and the restrictive policies of the governance of our state, they're deciding to make a lifestyle change and move someplace where they have more freedom.
Just to recap, those 4 states: Idaho, Arizona, Tennessee, and Texas.
Yeah, okay. That's the ones that I've heard. You know, and that very well may, you know, that might change too, depending upon what happens in those states going forward.
Okay.
Those are the 4 states that I've had. Now, there has been, as far as relocations are concerned, they're down. I mean, we're pretty much out of the state farm. They've pretty much got everyone transferred out. There's just still a skeleton crew out there. So those 1,700 jobs are gone. They were all transferred to Arizona, Texas, and Georgia. So we don't have anything coming in terms of new employment that would bolster our employment numbers. We still rely upon agriculture, and we still rely, which is again requires water and petroleum. Yeah, we do have Amazon, but those are $15 an hour jobs, entry-level jobs. So it's not supporting the economy like we should have some kind of support in higher paying jobs, which we don't have.
All right, Greg Ketchum, appraisal scheduling times are increasing to several weeks in some cases. What factors are causing this, and is there relief in sight?
Short answer is no, there's no relief in sight. And the backstory on that simply is that the appraisal profession was hit very heavily by the Dodd-Frank Act of 2005-6. In that they installed, thanks to, believe it or not, Governor Cuomo of New York, who sued Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. So that brought along the Home Valuation Code of Conduct, which then was incorporated into the Dodd-Frank Act, which then put a firewall, because they thought that the appraisers of, all the appraisers, every time anything happens, it's always the appraiser's fault. But they put a firewall in, which was the AMCs, appraisal management companies. So the appraisal management companies came in. Some were like Wells Fargo and Bank of America. They had their own AMCs, but it separated the communication between the loan officer and the appraiser. And that was what was driving a lot of the fraud, because the loan officers were picking their favorite appraisers who were hitting sales prices. So they put the firewall in the appraisal management company. You might think that's a good thing, but the bad thing is that immediately once the appraisal management companies took over, they started taking 35 to 40% of our appraisal fee. So the reduction of the fees and increase in operating costs caused many appraisers just to leave the business. A good example, in 2005 and 6, California had 22,000 licensed appraisers. Today, we're operating with a little less than 9,600. So there's a shortage of appraisers. We're working as fast as we can, as hard as we can. But you take that and couple with the fact that we're doing 3 refinance appraisals for every 1 purchase appraisal, there's just the laws of supply and demand. We still have appraisal management companies are still trying to cram our fees down, and mainly appraisers are not putting up with it. So a lot of the assignments I get, I probably turn down about 12 to 13 a day, but most of them are because they're low fees and they want their appraisal in a week. Well, I can't perform that right now. I'm doing turnaround times of about 12 to 14 days. And I think that's pretty good. So I don't accept the assignments that would require me to give a turn time of 3 weeks or a month or something like that. But in short, we have a severe shortage of appraisers. It's not going to get better because the qualifications for becoming an appraiser have actually increased. Today, we need, in order to obtain a trainee's license, you need a 4-year college degree, which you never used to have. You have 300 hours of appraisal-related education. And so you keep going through all this, and then you're saying, well, gee, if I'm a college graduate, am I going to go through all these steps, plus a 2,000-hour tutelage under a supervising appraiser? So once they get their trainee's license, they have to be supervised by either a certified general or certified residential appraiser for 2,000 hours. That takes 9 to 10 months. That's a liability to the appraiser, to the supervising appraiser. And a lot of people are too busy to make that sacrifice. So, am I going to be, do I want to get into the appraisal business when I have to have a 4-year college degree, go through all of the education, serve for 2,000 hours of experience in order to obtain my license? And then, of course, obtaining licenses still doesn't get you to the FHA panel. You have to be certified residential, which is another step of education and more experience. So you're going like, should I go through all of this so that I can come out making a net of about $40 an hour. That's it. I know I went over, but that's now you fully understand our side of the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there was some underlying factor and reason why, and I think you cleared that up for us. Mike, we got time for two really quick. We're running a little over. Mike George, with Fannie and Freddie issuing property inspection waivers with the increase of the valuable information, how will that affect our appraisal base into the future?
Well, if Fannie and Freddie continue on, of course, there's criteria to be met for appraisal waiver. Obviously, you have to have a credit score, as I understand it, of at least 750 or 760 or above. You have to have a substantial amount down, and so if you were to meet an appraisal waiver, they can go ahead and issue them as long as the property information is in their computer databases. Now we being the appraisers, have been feeding Freddie and Fannie's big, huge database for almost 9 years now. So they have just an absolutely huge database. And if that property is in the database, it could qualify for appraisal waivers. The problem simply there is that you have no independent third party to value the property. So the buyer is placed at risk. And I'll give you an example. I did an appraisal for purchase in Southern Oaks. Sales price was $395,000. I had 4 or 5 comps that were right there at $395,000. It really looked a very solid, and I could easily support the purchase price. Then I came across one sale. That one sale was at $440,000. Didn't make any sense. Finally called the realtor. The realtor said, well, the reason it sold for that is because we got an appraisal waiver. So somebody just paid, in this case, $45,000 more for the property, not knowing, and I don't know if he's an informed buyer or what. And again, it could fall upon the realtor for giving advice as to the prices. However, in this particular case, if this guy goes to refinance anytime soon, he's going to have a rude awakening coming.
Right. Okay, Brian.
The other part of that is that with those appraisal waivers and with those prices being paid over market, that's going to help drive up the market essentially falsely, because people are uninformed buyers. Yeah,
that's an excellent point. And I think we're seeing that right now. And Brian Franz has, in your opinion, with the new administration and precedented COVID cases increasing, do you see the bigger than normal slowdown or just a normal winter slowdown over the next 3 months?
I look really probably for a bigger slowdown, not necessarily because of the increase in COVID, so much as the uncertainty of what's going on forward with respect to the administration.
Okay, great. I appreciate it very much. I think we're going to adjourn our meeting. We ran a little over. I want to thank Susie Beatty, Fidelity National Home Warranty, for her support and sponsorship. Thank you so very much. We truly appreciate it. And we also want to thank Gary Crabtree for everything he's done for our profession. Is it true that you're retiring this year, sir?
Well, I'm I'm really thinking about it right now. I'm 81 years old. I'll be 82 next month. And as long as I'm still on this side of the ground and I'm physically able and mentally able to continue what I do, I love my work and I love my job. I want to try to stay as active as I can, as long as I can. So when that time comes, I'll know, and hopefully I can last a couple more years and be of some service to the real estate profession.
Well, we certainly appreciate it from our side of the, the fence here. We certainly appreciate everything that you do for us. I mean, we had a record number turnout. 121 people were on the call today. So really appreciate it. Thank you very much for all your time and all the effort that you put into putting these slides together. I know there's a lot of data that needs to be compiled and filtered, and that's no easy task. So we really appreciate that. Thank you very much on behalf of the MLS Forum and all that joined today. Thank you very much. Really appreciate everyone joining in the meeting. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And we look forward to our next MLS meeting. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gary, so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Bobby.